Sure. Okay, sir.
All right then, 10 past 9 here, and good evening, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. I'm very happy having you here, and looking the new faces here as well. Like, welcome to our third session of spring course with the title Environmental Justice and the Multi-Phase of Bioenergy Spring Course. But beforehand, I kindly request you to open your camera since you'd like to capture for the first page and second page. You know, like um, if you'd like to do it the last time, it won't be good since everyone would like to, oh my God, lying down in the bed. So I'm going to request you to open the camera in the first session, if you don't mind. I'm waiting you guys. All right. Rosinda, please open your camera. Alina, Barak, Aman. All right. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, please keep in mind that you should keep the chat box silent since I'm going to capture. All right. Okay. Ready, everyone? All right. For the first slide, 1, 2, 3. Nice. The second slide. 1, 2, 3. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. And you are able to turn off your camera or not. Please stay on the camera still. So Winnie has joined actually. So I'm going to make her as the co-host first. Okay. Okay, so before I start the meeting, I'm going to introduce you why do we choose the environmental justice and multi-phase of bioenergy spring course uh, for the 30 years. So as you know, like bioenergy stands at the forefront of the renewable energy revolution, right? Offering a multi-phase solution to the urgent need to replace the fossil fuels, as COP28 beforehand talked about, while uplifting local communities at the same time. This versatile term emphasizes for a variety of forms of energy to right, from organic materials including biomass, biofuels, and biogas, and with the ambitious goal of achieving carbon neutrality on the horizon, bioenergy has emerged as a key contender in the energy transition dialogue, despite uncertainty surrounding its production. So ethical consideration regarding production methodology, technological choices, and the sourcing of fuel remains under explored territories, and highlighting the complexity of integrating bioenergy into sustainable energy systems. So I'd like to uh, say like the sustainable energy system is the newest statement I would like to have. And as discussion involves balancing environmental, social, and the economic concern as the pillars of sustainability will be paramount to harnessing the full potential of bioenergy as a sustainable energy source. So the aim of our spring course today is to understand how bioenergy can help us reach environmental justice and see its challenge towards it. And we have here together with us, Stephen Ring and Karen Gomez. Stephen Ring as our first speaker, together with Karen, like first B speaker, and with Bright as well. So I'm going to spotlight Stephen first. But before Stephen go ahead with his materials, I'm going to introduce who is Stephen. So Stephen is a first year Master of Environmental Management candidate at Yale School of the Environmental, Yale University, as my dream university as well, specializing in both ecosystem management and conservation, and people, equity, and the environment. He is excited to learn more about equitable and inclusive strategies to improve landscape management, plants, and environmental stewardship programs. He works as a program associate at the Forest Dialogue. So the Forest Dialogue is partner of IFSA as well, where he supports the first dialogues by Energy from Forest Initiative, which we IFSA, like a Senate delegation there, which was Karen Gomez together with us. And Stephen is interested in collaborative stakeholder engagement processes and has been learning a great deal about the complex and multidisciplinary nature of bioenergy. And his focus on bioenergy has been primarily in the US context. So we would like to hear regarding the like the new insight by energy from forest, but particularly in US things. And he's glad to share some of what he has learned and to discuss the role of the dialogue in making positive change. And so, hello, Stephen.
Everyone, thank you so much, Rizka and Wenning and IFSA, everyone, for putting this together today. I'm really excited to be here. Let me try and share my screen.
Yeah, sure. Please go ahead first to check it out.
How does that look to everybody?
Yeah, it's good.
We're good? We can flip through?
Yeah, I
Okay.
get it. Stephen. Yeah.
So,
And Stephen, you have 20 minutes and like I'm going to remind you if the times will be over. So I'm going to have you here as our speaker, and please give applause with the emoticon, ladies and gentlemen, to Stephen. And Stephen, time and screen are yours.
great. Well, thanks again. Really, I really appreciate Wenning and Rizka and Karen, everyone at IFSA for inviting me to speak today. As Rizka mentioned, I'm a current graduate student at the Yale School of Environment, and I'm really happy to share my perspectives here. But I want to acknowledge that I am by no means a bioenergy or environmental justice expert. I haven't conducted specific research on the topic. I'm really here just to share some of the learnings that I've gained in my role as a program associate with the Forest Dialogue. So I just want to acknowledge there may be many people on the call who have a much deeper understanding of the issue, and I'll be speaking to it primarily from the US context. I also just want to acknowledge my own positionality when it comes to environmental justice issues. I haven't spent much lived experience in communities adversely affected by issues of environmental justice. I just want to acknowledge that I'm coming from a relatively privileged position speaking on these topics. And I just ask well, I just want to acknowledge my positionality here and be aware that I might not get everything right as I dive into some of the topics today. So, real quick, let's go over what I'll be speaking about. Here's a brief agenda. We'll go over, I think Rizka kind of covered bioenergy. I'm going to speak a little bit about the challenges of system boundaries, which I think come up a lot in conversations around bioenergy. We'll go into kind of dimensions of environmental justice around bioenergy and kind of possible solutions as they relate with a couple of examples of ongoing things in the United States. And then I'll speak about the Forest Dialogue, the organization that I currently work for, and the role of dialogue in this process, and talk a little bit about this recent scoping dialogue we had on bioenergy from forest that we were so glad to have Karen able to attend. Um, I'm gonna mention also here just that I'm here as myself and that I don't represent Forest Dialogue's view because the Forest Dialogue doesn't have a view. It's a multi-stakeholder engagement platform really designed to help foster dialogue and engagement on critical issues in forestry. So, what is bioenergy? Well, as Riska mentioned, we're talking about the energy generated from the combustion of woody biomass and biofuels derived from that woody biomass. So I just want to highlight here, I mean, here's a couple of different examples of different bioenergy processes, but I think the thing to really emphasize here and kind of the name of today's presentation is how complex a system this is. So bioenergy touches on a huge spectrum of scientific disciplines: forest ecology, climate change science, industrial chemistry, renewable energy, issues of environmental justice, socio-ecological questions. So within the field of bioenergy, we just have such a diverse and robust intellectual framework to be thinking about. It really is an expansive opportunity and challenge that touches on so many different aspects of the world and the energy transition. So here's a couple of stats from the FAO. This was something that was surprising for me when I first learned, but bioenergy is currently the most commonly used of renewable energy sources, but that 55% number just should be acknowledged that most of that is coming from the direct combustion of wood to heat homes and used in cooking. So it's not a huge percentage of the global energy supplies, but it is a commonly used resource. And you can see from this graph on the right here that especially in the United States, the market for wood pellets, so that's like an aftermarket product of bioenergy, the compression of woody products into a pellet that can be burned at relatively high efficiency in a special pellet burning stove. That market has really increased in the past decade. So this is sorry. This is, I think, kind of the crux of what I would like to impart to you today. If there's any sort of point to what I'm talking about, I want to say that when it comes to environmental justice and bioenergy, context matters a great deal. It's kind of everything. And where we draw the system boundary is really critical to the entry point and perspective on bioenergy. So, looking at this graph, we can see, let's say we drew the system just at the forest, and we were just looking at a carbon accounting model for that forest. We'd be thinking about what are the justice concerns in this specific local area? What's the indigenous use of this land? Who lives near the land? What are other recreation opportunities maybe in the forest? Um, what is the sort of, gosh, the counterfactual scenario for alternative uses for this forest. And so who's affected, who can be employed by working in this forest? How is that an opportunity or a challenge? If we expand that out to, let's say, the bioenergy from forest industry, then we're including, maybe the siting of different mills, the combustion, the transportation, and the carbon involved in that transportation from the forest to mills. We could zoom that out even further to the larger forest products industry and see how bioenergy fits into existing paper mills, other wood products. And then we're starting to think more about, regional economies and how do these things connect together and what are the concerns of justice when it comes to equitable distribution from different groups and stakeholders involved in that context. And then we could even zoom that out further to like the entire bioeconomy. So
Yeah.
a lot of what I've been working on for the forest dialogue is in bioenergy specifically from forests, but we know that bioenergy also includes the whole spectrum of biofuels. And so then it's a much larger system. And then when we're thinking about issues of environmental justice, we're thinking about globally, how do global markets affect communities on the ground? So just the really critical thing that I'd like people to take away is just that the context is everything in this discussion. And sort of where you are drawing the system boundary is going to really affect how you do the carbon accounting, how you do the energy accounting, and the considerations of environmental justice as it relates to bioenergy. So this is just a framework for understanding environmental justice. It's from Schlossberg and Bershin. They wrote a paper on justice and energy transition. So if you have a different definition, I encourage you to consider that as you go out into the world and do more applied things. So here are four pillars We can talk about distributive justice has the way in which the major social institutions distribute fundamental rights and duties and determine the division of advantages. Procedural or participatory justice would be the ways in which individuals and groups are included in decision-making activities and processes. Affected communities are able to influence the decision-making process. That would be what justice looks like in that procedural justice dimension. Justice as recognition, which is the inclusion and valuing of divergent perspectives rooted in social, cultural, ethnic, racial, and gender differences. And justice as capability, so the ability for group members to live healthy, safe, dignified lives. It acknowledges people's embeddedness in complex system and the need for these ecosystems to function in particular ways. So here are a couple of concerns when we speak about distributive justice and procedural justice primarily. Um, a couple of examples of challenges with environmental justice, particularly in the US Southeast. So there's some concerns about inequities and exposure to air pollution and those health impacts on marginalized groups, the disproportionate location of bioenergy projects near environmental justice communities. So when I say environmental justice communities in the US context, this definition broadly includes communities that are relatively low income and predominantly of color and have suffered historical wrongs, structural violence, have been marginalized by various government institutions, policies. We have a long history of this problem with environmental justice in the United States. And then also the uncertainty about who is suffering the negative externalities and who is gaining from positive externalities. So speaking on that a little bit, there was a recent study by the NAACP that reported that African Americans who reside near energy production facilities, including those biomass power plants, are more likely to suffer the negative health impacts than any other group in the United States. And I think the study was Coaster and Davis 2018 that they estimated that the wood pellet production facilities, specifically for bioenergy in the US Southeast, are 50% more likely to be in these environmental justice communities. Here's a quick map of what that looks like. So we can see here that in red are those environmental justice communities we were discussing, and in green are those biomass facilities. So we can recognize there's a justice issue here, where predominantly these environmental justice communities are dealing with the low air quality that results from the burning of biomass. Um, I want to acknowledge too, there are some new technologies like bioenergy with carbon capture that aim to reduce the particulate matter that's coming out of these energy facilities. Maybe there's someone in the audience who can speak a little bit more to its broader application. My understanding is it's not broadly used yet in the field, but maybe it will be one day. Um, I want to talk briefly about another interesting study. This is from a group of Indigenous business leaders in Canada. So moving a little bit outside of the United States context, but this was a discussion of kind of the opportunities and challenges as they relate to bioenergy and energy transitions. Um, and I just thought that I wanted to bring this to the table because it kind of showed the, you know, the double-edged situation where there is a tremendous opportunity, but also concerns. We want to make sure that we're going to do it right and that justice is centered in conversations about the energy transition. So here's just an example. So like an emergent subtheme from the study was, on the sort of positive case, could this lead to employment opportunities, greater prosperity within the community? And then on the other side of that, there was some concerns about a huge influx of wealth into the community could lead to previously unconsidered social problems. Um, Another one down at the bottom here, we have the relationships with the proponents and industry. So there's the potential to develop these strong relationships with larger multinational organizations, with industry, and that could really support and elevate a lot of these communities, these Indigenous business leaders are representing. But there's also the concern that perhaps this could lead to further marginalization if those partnerships aren't developed in a truly equitable fashion. Um, so I just wanted to highlight kind of the nuanced and complicated nature of the conversation. So when talking about procedural and participatory justice challenges in bioenergy production, it's a lot of what we were just discussing previously with the distributive justice dimension, but there's often a lack of upstream engagement. So real people on the ground in communities having a voice at the table in larger decision-making organizations. And so that leads to the lack of meaningful participation in that decision making. And a lot of organizations have, acknowledged how important it is to have earnest, equitable procedural justice considerations in establishing that social license to operate in a given area. And I think some organizations and businesses have been more successful than others. And then I want to put this out here too. This comes back to the challenge of system boundaries. I'm not saying I hold this opinion or agree, but that some have argued that there's likely to be a fundamental clash between the needs and interests of the public at different scales. So, perhaps there's a larger justice concern at one scale, but that might adversely affect a community at a smaller local scale. So, what are some things that could be done about these concerns? Say upstream engagement. So, thinking about community participation not as like a box to be checked or something to do on the long list, but really has central to new energy projects and new bioenergy projects development. The community should be engaged from the beginning and throughout where these projects are sited, facilities are going to be, what are the employment opportunities, how's they related? I think that these concerns need to be really central. So upstream engagement, community-centered approaches to bioenergy projects, the earnest integration of socioeconomic and environmental values for policy rationales, the need for more robust built-in assessments to identify those environmental justice and equity issues, um, those strong facilitation processes, so people who can really be community navigators and help bridge, those on the ground to those in decision-making bodies. And then the continual questioning of the system boundaries and scale as it relates to environmental justice and bioenergy. So I know that was a lot, and I apologize if I spoke pretty quickly. I'm really looking forward to hear Bright's contributions on the topic. I think I have maybe 6 more minutes here, and I want to talk briefly about the Forest Dialogue, and that's the organization I currently work as a program associate for. So once again, we are a multi-stakeholder dialogue platform. So we are a convener of different stakeholders on various issues in forestry. We've been around for over 20 years and have had dialogue initiatives on a wide range of topics, from tree plantations in the landscape to currently working on both a bioenergy from forest initiatives and an ecosystem restoration initiative. Um, this is very briefly the process. And if people have more questions about the forest dialogue, I'm happy to put my email in the chat later on in the talk and we can talk more about it. Um, but the idea is to engage. So identify the key issues to build trust and share perspectives around those issues. And then we explore, we see where are there areas of alignment and agreement around an issue, and then to change. So to promote and facilitate actions that can lead to solutions that have impacts on policy on the ground. So here's that same wheel with a little bit more detail. I want to talk about our Bioenergy from Forest initiative as it's directly related to the discussion today. I think a key takeaway from us as we were going about the initiative is that how multifaceted it is. It intersects such a wide range of expertise, experiences, geographies, and interests. And so understanding the entry point could really help to illuminate the perspective on what is in and out of scope for the conversation and what the motivations are for engaging in a dialogue process. So as part of our process, in dialogue, we often start with what's called a scoping dialogue. And so we had one for bioenergy just last month on February 27th. This is a picture from that day. Um, it brought together 28 individuals representing different stakeholder groups, each with unique perspectives and interest in bioenergy from forests, primarily in the United States. So representatives from private industry, NGOs, indigenous peoples, youth, and academia. And so the idea behind a scoping dialogue, I'll read through these bullets because I think it gives a good framing of the issue, but the idea is to kind of take a shape of where the dialogue and the conversation will go, to kind of identify those key areas of alignment, the key fracture lines, we call them, which are areas of divergence, or maybe people are not as aligned. And then that can really help inform where the dialogue will go next. What are the topics that we really want to explore deeper in this multi-stakeholder environment? So the goals were to build a collective understanding of those stakeholder perspective, concerns, and priorities related to bioenergy for forests, to identify the areas of disagreement and agreement related to bioenergy from forests, especially as they relate to issues of forest and land use. To explore that question, if bioenergy from forests, so if we're going to be doing bioenergy, when, where, and under what conditions is it going to, what's best practice? And then to also co-create an actionable plan that presents a path forward to explore issues identified and prioritized by dialogue participants. So speaking of dialogue participants, I think we have about 2.5 minutes here, and I'd love to invite Karen Gomez Garcia, um, the IFSA regional representative for Latin America, who we were so grateful to have at the dialogue. And Karen, please just hop in if you just want to share some of your reflections on the day, anything you learned or that was interesting from the scoping dialogue.
Yeah, sure. Can you hear me?
Can hear you.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ago, I was a member of this dialogue, bioenergy from forest in jail. And thank you, Steven, for inviting me to share a little of the scope that I observed in my participation in the dialogue about bioenergy. And first of all, I must mention that I had never before had the fortune to observe a dialogue table where institutions and companies participate. And I think that at least starting to discuss the topic from a research work is a good alternative to find solutions and make reflections of the uses of the energies we have. In this case, comments regarding the advantage and disadvantage of this energy have many variants according to the areas of work of the guests. And I was very pleased to know that it's possible to establish a dialogue with companies and environmental institutions of the country. Bioenergy is a resource that has a good face for a cleaner energy, but more research needs to be done about it according to how many countries are already implementing it 100% within their environmental development plans. So adding to my comment, I must also highlight the organization within the dialogue table was incredible. Something that I think that within my training will help me a lot finally. And thank you very much to Risk and Stephen for clarifying for the good attentions and the process as a delegate, because I really appreciate this opportunity because it's a unique opportunity give me IFSA and my life. So I really appreciate for this. And yeah, I think this is all my comment because we don't have more time. But yeah, if you know more about my participation in this delegate, send me a message to my email. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Karen. And I know we're out of time here, so just my final thoughts. As I said earlier, just bioenergy is complicated and multifaceted. So solutions within the field may be complicated and multifaceted. The scale and context are critical when thinking about environmental justice as it relates to bioenergy. And so I encourage practitioners, people who are doing research in the field, to really be considering that system boundary, the context of how is bioenergy working in this specific environment or within this specific system, and then how that scale impacts environmental justice in your decision making as it relates to bioenergy. So thank you so much. I'll stick around for questions later. Really appreciate the time today, and thank you just to everyone for participating, for being here.
Okay, no, okay.
Thank you so much, Stephen, for the presentation, and also Karen, regarding your experience during the scoping dialogue before the real dialogue, 5 days dialogue. So I do agree with you, Stephen. regarding the like the bioenergy and also the environmental justice is talking about the supply chains, about the downstream, upstream, and also another aspect. But we could say it's success when like multi-stakeholder are in the same boat, already in the same path, and with different obligation as well, and several engagement with national government, national entities, stakeholder compartment wisely come up with the regulation bill and government not only accommodating only one party on one interest, but we need to create a corridor. We need to minimize negative impact, multi-stakeholder forum, and giving the line between them. And the first dialogue is being the one of one of the solution. We would like to give a concrete impact to the bioenergy problems right now, especially like in US it's very massive, but then in developing countries such as Indonesia should be more integrated and trying to be massive as well. I thank you again, Stephen and Karen, for your amazing and tremendous explanation. And don't move, but because we would like to have a question and answer session later on after a bright presentation. So I thank you so much. And we move to another speaker. And I do appreciate Stephen for really in some presentation. So hello, Bright, are you here?
Hello. Can you hear me? Hello.
Nice, good.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so
Okay.
ladies and gentlemen, the second speaker is Bright. So Bright is a result-oriented computer engineer with a strong background in technology and proven track record in monitoring and evaluation, as you know, like M&E. Possessing exceptional analytical and problem-solving skill, and he has successfully applied his technical expertise to contribute to the development and implementation of effective and M&E frameworks. So there's a lot of like monitoring and evaluation learnings with a passion for utilizing data-driven insight to optimize performance and drive organizational growth. And he excel in bridging the gap between technology and project management. And he also expert in the bioenergy and representative from our friends IFSA here. So hello, Bright. Nice to see you. How are you?
Yeah, nice to see you too. Uh, okay, so I'll be presenting today, but my network is giving me a little bit of problems. So I would like to share my screen, but I'll turn my video off so that my screen can be shared successfully. Is that
Yeah,
okay?
sure. Yeah, it's very
Okay,
okay. As long as you
share
are enjoying.
right now.
All right. Bright, you have time 20 minutes starting from your first speaker. It's kind of a challenge, but just take it, enjoy. I'd like to remind you if the time is going over. Thank you, Bright. So time and screen are yours. Good luck. Give the
All
applause to
right.
Bright, gentlemen, with your great amateur.
Okay, so am I live? Is my screen sharing?
Not yet.
Okay, I'm coming. Give me a few
All right.
seconds.
Right now is good. Yeah, right now it's good. But then like the like the set screen is us.
Okay,
Okay, nice.
can you see? All right. All right. So was that my bio you said earlier?
What? Sorry?
Was that my bio you were saying earlier? You were telling them earlier. I think you got the wrong bio.
All
But
right.
okay, my name is Raikusia Pia. I'm the IFSA Northern African Regional Representative, and I completed school, or I'm a year to complete school very soon, and I'm very happy that I am on this platform today to present on environmental justice and the multifaceted nature of bioenergy. So before we go through, I would like us to know the agenda or what we'll be talking about. I think Stephen Ring said a lot, and most of what he said is covered in what I'm bringing up today. But I think I'll bring something small to add up to what he did, so that the whole discussion becomes more of interactive, and I also bring my ideas on board. So we talk about what environmental justice is and what bioenergy is. That'll be our introduction, and then we will see bioenergy as an alternative to fossil fuels. And we're going to go into environmental justice and the bioenergy sector. We're going to talk about the supply chain traceability and sustainability, and then umbrella organizations for bioenergy supply chain traceability. So let's just get right onto it. Uh, what is environmental justice? Environmental justice refers to the fair treatment and meaningful involvement of all people, regardless of race, color, national origin, income, or development implementation. And all these and enforcement of environmental laws, regulations, and policies which affect these individuals. So if we say environmental justice, it talks about equality or fairness in implementation of laws which affect the environment or affect individuals who are in areas which these policies or laws are implemented. And there has to be the need for that fairness or equality in any policy or legislation that is brought up to uh, let me say associate with those environmental instances. So we go on to what is bioenergy. If you see from the screen, you can see we have a little short, small picture there telling us bioenergy, what bioenergy is. Bioenergy is a form of renewable energy that we generate when we burn biomass fuels. Biomass fuel or biomass energy or bioenergy is a versatile renewable energy, and in both the generation and utilization, has a variety of options that make it multifaceted, and we can look through into its generation as it's not only generated like the way fossil fuels are, that you need to just burn them. In bioenergy, you just do not burn biomass. I think that is the most popular way of generating or harnessing the power of bioenergy, but then you can also do it through converting the biomass into liquid fuels such as biodiesel, ethanol, which can be used to fuel transport and other vehicles, and even power generators. We can also make use of decay bacteria that helps generation gas that can also be used as an alternative to natural gas for home use and maybe industrial use as well. So we go on to the next slide where we're going to talk about bioenergy as an alternative to fossil fuels. Now, we have been so much into fossil fuels since the early 90s coming on, that almost everything we do is based on fossil fuels, from our industries, from our homes, from generation of electricity, transportation. Every sector which we look around is involved, has fossil fuels involved in it. And I think that is one of the things we are trying to bring about bioenergy to replace, as we have come to find out that fossil fuels are a leading contributor to emissions that are destroying our ozone layer and making the world more unsafe for us, as in causing climate change and having rapid effects. Recently, we are having a lot of rapid effects in my area here in Ghana. We're having uncertain rain patterns, changes in wind. We're having floods. It's just so much different than the earlier days, and we can attribute all those things to fossil fuels, or let me say climate change, which we have fossil fuels at the background of it. So bioenergy as an alternative to it is going to be a very good initiative. And if we look at what bioenergy presents us an opportunity to be able to reuse our carbon waste or any waste material that is organic, that we do or we make during our everyday life activities, both industries and at home. We can use these organic waste materials to generate
But your screen is presenting the Zoom, not the presentation itself.
Oh, sorry. Let me fix that. Is it back on?
Yeah, please try to like present it again.
Is it
Yeah,
back
yeah,
on?
like
All right.
Zoom presentation. So you
So
press the icon.
okay. So as I was saying, bioenergy comes with the buff of being a renewable resource. We can use or reuse any organic material that we have made waste to and reuse it again. And also, it's also carbon neutral, as in it doesn't add much carbon to the atmosphere as what we are using as organic matter. Although we are going to burn some, what we are going to do is that when we burn, we have carbon going out. We understand that, but as these organic matter come from trees, plants, animals, they also take in carbon dioxide during the process of their growth, and that comes in to give it, let's say, an offset to what we have already emitted. So it's like a plus one minus one, and then comes to zero. So in the whole totality of it, it's like no exchange or no increase in carbon content in the atmosphere, because what we give out, we take it back through the growing of these organic materials. And I think that is one way that bioenergy is really taking over biofuels in that aspect. We can also talk of a circular economy where economies or countries may not necessarily need to depend on external countries to provide them with fossil fuels or fuel, but then whatever waste product that is produced in the bioenergy sector, which the country may have developed to also produce energy, and that will reduce the amount of dependency on external input of or import of fuels. And I think that is really going to help a lot of economies and build regions faster, as they don't need to spend extra money going into purchase fuels from other countries, and it's going to be very good for us. And the last one I would like to talk about is the diverse feedstock of bioenergy resources. Now, bioenergy resources, as I said earlier, goes from our waste material, and these waste material are almost everywhere. We can find them on farms, we can find them in our homes, industries, a lot of places, and it makes getting this resource very easy. That means you don't necessarily need to depend on just one source to be able to produce bioenergy. And I think that is one part I really love about bioenergy. Although I'm not really into the field, but I feel like having the option to choose from a variety of different sources gives you more flexibility in whatever you do, such that if you are mainly a country which bases on agriculture, you can use most of your agric waste to power your bioenergy. If you do more of food, or let me say you make a lot of animal waste or food waste, you can get any amount of waste you want, and then you can transform that into bioenergy. We're going to move on to bioenergy and environmental justice, this environmental justice and bioenergy sector. See, although I've said so much about bioenergy, what makes sense and is really a fun thing, and everyone might say this is the best alternative for fossil fuels, we just can't just ride on that and just go for it. We need to see to it that environmental justice, as I said earlier, that any laws, any policies we are putting in place do not affect the people or the immediate people, stakeholders who are really involved, people who these sectors or these plans will be around their neighborhoods, or let me say homes, will be affected. How other people who play important roles in this community will be affected by this energy or bioenergy we're going to bring up. So we need to have a viable solution or something that will protect the individuals who are in these communities where we're going to implement bioenergy. And one main important thing is to have these stakeholders be in participation and engagement in whatever we're going to do. So for any bioenergy sector that we're going to plan, or let's say assuming we bring on bioenergy and we're going to make it a feasible plan to execute, we need to have stakeholder involvement and participation. And from that, I think we can build on whatever thing that we are able to agree on and make what we are doing very, very successful. So one thing that stakeholder participation will bring into this bioenergy sector will be the opportunity for them to also input on how we're going to go about this sector we are going to bring up, so they can tell us, okay, we don't want this here, we want it here, it's going to affect our lands. Okay, so don't build this here, put this here, we can provide you with this type of waste. And I think it also helps in transparency and decision making, as everyone who is involved, or let me say everyone in the community or society where this bioenergy will be, would know whatever is going on before it's implemented, so that there's transparency in decision making, that any decision made by authorities will not seem alien to those people in the communities. And I think if we involve stakeholders in such conversations, we can have that kind of transparency, and it's going to give us also access to information, because building such a sector would be a very, very hectic task, that you need a lot of resources, you need a lot of people, you need stakeholders to come on board, and you just can't do that on your own. You need also information about even the areas you're going to implement those policies or those ideas you have. So we need information, and these information are with these stakeholders. So having a stakeholder involvement and participation will help you to gain access to such information of landscapes, and help you to understand where you're going to get your sources of waste or biomass. And is really something which is very, very important as a step in stakeholder participation if we really want to implement this bioenergy sector. And also we're going to have mechanisms to redress grievances. So as I was saying earlier, maybe we're going to set up this biomass or biofuel or bioenergy industry, and it's going to affect some people. How are we going to address those issues? But if we have stakeholders on board, they can bring up ideas on how to mitigate or even how to address these problems that are going to come after we have implemented these policies or these ideas and plans we have. And it's going to reduce a lot of tension that could come after the project has been done. And also, if we have community-based approaches to bioenergy development, examples will be stated later on. I think it's going to really help in bringing the project to life, as community-based projects are really, really pushed by community members, and even not authorities, by the community themselves take it up onto themselves to make it a success. So that will really help push the agenda or the plan we want to fruition quickly. We're going to move on to our next, which is the supply chain traceability and sustainability. So if we are going to implement a bioenergy sector, we need to be able to trace where the supply is going to come from, and also we will need to go and see how sustainable the supply is going to be. Because if we get so much waste, and that waste is affecting our lands, is affecting our resources we have, then it's going to be a negative impact rather on us. So we need to make sure that whatever we are doing has to be tracked, and tracking them makes sure that we don't cause harm in the light that we are doing good. So I think the points are here. My time is like 5 minutes. I wouldn't spend much time. I'll just hit on them and then we go on straight to the next one. So we're going to have environmental impact access assessment, social and economic considerations, compliance with standards and certifications, risk management and resilience. And all these are the reasons why we need to have such a system to check, so that we do not make any mistakes while implementing this project. although we can have the system in place, but as it is going to be a very big industry, there's going to be a lot of challenges. These are some of the challenges I was able to come up with. That is the complexity of the supply chains. That you may have to have multiple points of entry for waste income, and you may not be able to track where all these waste or all these materials or resources are coming in from. You may have limited transparency due to the complexity of these supply chains, and data and availability and the quality of this waste material we may not be able to know. But then as we are trying to make an implementation, we're trying to go to look at all these challenges and address them as they should. And indirect land use change, you may have some issues with land change as or land use changing because of you requesting or wanting the people to produce or provide you with waste materials for your bioenergy. And indirectly, you may have them affecting other resources on the land. You may have social impact and land rights issues coming up, and supply chain complexity after we have been able to implement regarding all these challenges. There's still going to be a problem with our supply chain, as um, you may not necessarily be able to distribute it to everyone who needs it directly. It may have to go through several points before it reaches the end user, and that also causes some kind of complexity. So for an umbrella organization that will be able to look after all this supply chain traceability system that we're going to create, I think it will need to be focused on energy supply and make sure that it's feasible, and it will require a strong amount of coordination between stakeholders and
Hello, Bright? Are you there?
stakeholders.
Yeah. All right. Bright, are you there? I think your connection is echoing or having a trouble while your time is still 1 minute left. So, ladies and gentlemen, I do believe that Bright is on trouble of his networking. So, we are waiting for a couple of time. I'm going to make sure whether Bright on the trouble or not. So, Winnie, please connect to Bright regarding this case. But then, like, wait, but Bright's still on here, the presentation. Yeah, sadly.
So, what is an to supply chain traceability holds accountability and sustainability within the sector. There's accountability, as we mentioned, challenges are addressed or seen to problems after we have implemented and bring up. So, I think that is my input: bioenergy and then environmental justice. If we see that
All right. Hello, Bright. Hello. I think Bright on trouble, but then I'm going to say thank you, but Bright on trouble, so he won't hear me well. But thank you so much, Bright, for the really comprehensive explanation regarding you mentioned regarding the traceability as well as the sustainability. It's kind of the core of like move forward to the green um like green movement, since like traceability within the supply chain is very important and vital, like like making sure adopts data and also like collecting it, so we know like the traceability from the upstream to the downstream, while the country like delivering to the like countrymen, etc. I thank you so much, Bright, for the highlight, and you highlight regarding like the existing of the multi-stakeholder platform, etc., and stakeholder engagement as well in the bioenergy transformation. So, and thank you, Bright and Stephen, for today's presentation. You are guys very amazing, and we are on the Q&A session. So please, ladies and gentlemen, if you have any question to Stephen or even Bright, you are able to like raise your hand and able to choose yourself to speak on the forum, or even like just drop within your chat box. But before we are waiting the other response, I'm going to ask you, Stephen, regarding challenge uh, within the bioenergy in United States, since right now, while in the COP28 has no clear policy regarding the bioenergy, but I'm curious regarding the US challenge facing the bioenergy movement. And do you have any success stories of bioenergy implementation within US?
Yeah, thanks, Riska. And once again, thanks to everyone. And thank you to Bright. That was really informative. I loved hearing your thoughts and thinking more about supply chain issues in bioenergy. To answer your question, Riska, I mean, I think there have been some pretty interesting success stories within bioenergy. I've seen some interesting community scale projects. So one thing we have going on in the United States right now, we have a lot of very dense coniferous forest in the Pacific Northwest. So the northwestern corner of the US in places like Northern California, Oregon, Washington. And there's a need. I don't know if people have seen ever on the news, but we have these big wildfires. And so there's a need to reduce the fuel for that fire, these kind of overgrown, too dense forests that come from, well, bad management policies by some of our agencies for the past century. And so there's this kind of really cool opportunity there. If we're going to be thinning these forests, then for what can't be used for other forest products, is there a bioenergy component? And so I know, gosh, I'm embarrassed. I can't quite remember the name of the specific town, but there's a couple of small towns in Oregon I've heard about that have started these community-focused bioenergy plants where they're, working with the federal government, the state government, and local stakeholders to get funds to both build bioenergy plants, but then also to employ people to go out, do the thinning in the forest, and it all stays in this kind of local economy of energy and this local supply chain. So it's like a small town in the mountains with a dense forest. Those trees then get thinned, they get brought into the power plant in town, and then that biomass power plant actually provides electricity for homeowners in that area. And so I think that that's a pretty cool and successful opportunity within bioenergy. Just one example.
All right. Thank you, Stephen, for your very good explanation. So there is one question from Adbanji. So is there any present policy as regards to bioenergy either in the US or in a global scale?
I wonder, is Bright, are you with us?
Uh, I was going to ask Bright to open his camera, but Bright doesn't respond yet. But hopefully Bright will have a good connection, so he could back join us.
So I'm not a policy expert, so please, if somebody in the chat has a better answer than what I will offer, please put it there. But my understanding is, bioenergy has been identified by many international bodies as a potential transitional technology as we move to a fully renewable energy economy. I know within the EU, um, bioenergy is considered renewable energy in a way that it's not quite the same as in the US context right now. And I think there's a lot of nuance to that, but I want to be careful because I don't have like a deep understanding of the differences in policy. So I don't want to say anything that's flat out mistaken.
All right, thank you so much. Please, guys, if you have any questions, since I would love to hear another voices, unless me and also Steven. So please, anyone, if you have any question, please raise your hand. If you are not able to speak on the floor, you just type on the chat box. Please, we are waiting for your enthusiasm, ladies and gentlemen. Please, if you have any. While we are waiting, Bright coming in, and yeah, since like bioenergy is very hot news today, especially in Indonesia, it's very hot news, but the government still thinking about the implementation, since like yeah, it's actually became my second question, like if like the whole country, or most countries implemented the bioenergy, and we assume that there will be a greenflation. So greenflation is like is every is everything, if everything is on like the green thing, like if you'd like to buy something sustain, or buy something like bottle, sustainable bottle, or sustainable plastic, the price is rising, and also like having inflation. So what do you think about it, Stephen? Like there is no win-win solution if we assume if there is bioenergy transition, there will be a green inflation at the same time.
Sorry, can you repeat the question, Riska? I didn't quite. So if there is a bioenergy transition, then what is the question?
Like the price, like the daily needs will come higher, like doing inflation or something. Yeah.
Well, so once again, just putting my caveats out there, not being an expert on the issue, but I think that um, I've seen from just my brief introduction into this topic is that bioenergy can be really successful at local scales where those supply chains already exist, where labor forces exist, and perhaps where there is already a power plant that could be producing energy. So in that case, I imagine if the energy is coming from a more locally sourced area, that could have a positive impact on the price because it doesn't have to change as many hands as it goes, around the world sometimes in some cases with bioenergy products. So I think that there is a lot of opportunity. Um, and I'll touch on Wending's question in the chat here too. So my understanding is that with all of these green energy technologies, that in order to truly achieve kind of a net zero or even greater than net zero future, it's going to take a combination, a mosaic of different technologies and initiatives. So I think that bioenergy is an important piece, but I would be hesitant to say, let's power everything with bioenergy. I think, we need geothermal energy, solar energy, wind energy, and I think that's part of the consideration, as I was speaking about earlier, but context, locality, especially when considering not just bioenergy, but all kinds of environmental issues is critical. So what's, the best energy solution for this community in this area? And of course, that ties into larger global processes. But I think that there isn't going to be like a one size fits all for the green energy transition.
Yeah, there is another question, Stephen, from
Yeah,
Ediban.
so minute quantity. Well, I think those FAO stats kind of touch on it. When we burn wood to warm ourselves in our homes or cook over it, that's small scale bioenergy production. Now, I don't think that there's many people recommending that practice be scaled up. It's not necessarily the most efficient energy use of those wood products. I'm not familiar with like a very small scale facility that would produce electricity, although I do know that the usage of pellet stoves, so taking those, the biomass, compressing it into these pellets, which can burn at higher efficiency for longer in these specialized wood stoves. I think that has a lot of potential to be used, kind of on an individual or family unit scale in homes.
All right. Thank you, Stephen. You are so expert, actually. Like, thank you. Anyone, if you have any question to Stephen, please go ahead. Yeah, great. Same idea here. Like, uh, yeah, bioenergy is very good. Bright, you are here.
Hello, hello. Sorry,
Hi, hi,
guys.
hi.
Sorry,
No
sorry,
problem.
sorry, sorry, sorry. Uh, my network dropped. Where did I get to before a drop, please?
Yeah, right now we are on a question and answer session, so we are waiting for participants' question, and you are guys could able to like answer the question. But if you have um if you have a thought regarding the last question, which was coming from Adebanji, I'd like to read the question. Is there a process to producing bioenergy in local communities or in a minute quantity by individuals, just like in case of biogas? So how about it, right? Hello, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Sorry, sorry. My network is fluctuating today.
Oh, right, no problem.
I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry. Can I get the question again?
Go ahead. Yeah. Maybe we are able to move to the another question, which was just coming from Adebanji. So, what are some implementing factors that we can engage in at the moment that can possibly yield future positive results?
Okay, so if you want to produce bioenergy, if I got your question right, you want to produce bioenergy on your own, something like that. Is that what he was trying to mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Is that yeah? Okay, so from my little understanding of how bioenergy is produced, you have to have a digester if that is you are going in for making it into a gas, or if you want to convert it to fuel that is biofuel, you have to have a digester, maybe have some bacteria to decay it, and then you can have your byproduct or end product at the end of the decay process. So, but there are more detailed instructions to how this can go. But I think you have to have a digester where you have some bacteria in there, and you have your biomass or bioorganic waste in there. So you can have food waste, you can have animal droppings, or you can have harvest from wheat, these wheat crops or stuff, and you can keep them in a digester. A digester is like, let me say, a container, something like a tank that you have just some valves in there coming in and out to let air come in, the air you wanted to you want in, and the air you want out, and you have some bacteria in there. That is one way of harnessing the energy from biomass, that is through digestion, that is bacteria decay. You can also have by burning. Burning is one of the most common ways. As even Stephen Ring mentioned, they burn a lot of wood, and wood burning is also one way of harvesting biomass or bioenergy. So once you burn the wood or burn these waste materials, and I think in my country, I think way back some years earlier, when the whites came in here, we were colonized. So when they came in earlier, they had these buildings called boilers. Yes, they are no more in operation now, but they had some buildings called boilers where we used to feed them with waste from our homes, and these waste from our homes would be put in these boilers. These boilers were just like furnaces which were burning every day, and the heat or the vapor coming in, the steam coming in from these waste materials will go into power some turbines, or let me say fans, and then they are then propelled to generate electricity for some areas. So even till today, not much of them are still in existence, but these boilers used to produce electricity for some parts of our areas, and I think it was really one way that we really harness the power of bioenergy or biomass substances through these boilers. So you burn them, and then the steam coming from them goes into propel some turbines, and then these turbines go into generate electricity through a generator. And I think so I think that is something I can share on. If you want more details, I think you need to see an expert in the field so that he can give you more precise uh, information or step by step how to generate it on your own. But something little I can say is this. Yeah, thank you very much.
I thank you, Bright, for your very amazing explanation. So, yeah, actually, right now is Q&A session, so we are not presenting the presentation. So the next question coming from Adibanji as well, but I'm going to start from Stephen and also Bright. Can forest litters be useful at the decaying stage too, in your opinion, as far?
I think just so I understand the question, when we say forest litter, are we talking about the sort of understory decaying plant matter at the bottom of the forest? Is that
Yeah, I think so. Forest litter at the bottom of the forest, like the litter underneath.
got it? So my understanding is that that might not be the best fuel source for bioenergy. And, if anyone has a different thought, I really welcome it. But so I think that the bioenergy, and I'm speaking really from the wood products industry perspective, or from forests specifically, but bioenergy makes a lot of sense when it comes from slash. So kind of like the twigs, chips, other biomass that comes from timber operations, like cutting down trees to turn into dimensional lumber, and those excesses can be converted into bioenergy. When I think about the forest litter, and this just comes from my own perspective, thinking about ecology and restoration, I would want that forest litter to stay put because it's so important to the broader dynamics and ecological health of a given system. So at least that's where my head goes when I think about even in a working forest, you still want to make sure that that forest layer is there to keep moisture in the ground, to provide habitat for important soil bacteria. Those decaying processes, I think, are pretty important to the overall ecosystem health. That would be my own thoughts on whether or not forest litter would be useful for bioenergy.
All right, thank
Yeah,
you,
yeah,
Stephen. How about Bright?
yeah. So okay, so I see another one for more elaboration on circular economy. Okay, so when we say circular economy, let me put it this way: that you have an economy which depends, or everything runs in a circle. Yes. So your products are going to be used, and then the used products have waste product. These waste products are then going back to the production state to be used again. So in turn, it goes in a circle. You use the product, the waste goes into production again. You produce new product. So that is how bioenergy comes into be a circular economy. You don't need to rely on external or external factors or external forces for uh, input. You need to have this circular economy where you can use these products from wood, from food, from agriculture, and you can bring them back into the production of bioenergy. These energies go back to serving our homes with electricity, powering our cars with fuels, and these let me say fuels or electricity and heat we generate go into support other processes in our economy, which also continues to bring in more let me say waste. So when we do agriculture, you need electricity to run some lights in your farm, to have these animals going for irrigation, and these electricity goes into help your agriculture. Your agriculture produces the waste, you bring it back into the production of that electricity. So it's like in a circle. You have everything going back and forth to help each process do it once over again. So I think that is my understanding of a circular economy. And if Stephen Rings wants to add something to it, you can add something. Okay,
I thought that
yeah.
was excellent, Bright. I got nothing to add there. I thought that was awesome.
All
Okay,
right.
so what could be the possible trade-offs of bioenergy? Okay, so if let's say we are going to prefer to choose bioenergy over fossil fuels, what are we trading off? Okay, so uh, I really can't say much of a trade-off, as most of what I presented was the positive side of bioenergy. There are also some negative sides of bioenergy which we have not discussed yet, and maybe sometime, or maybe if you meet an expert, they can tell you much on some negative impacts. But I think, from my opinion, that the trade-offs you're going to get from using bioenergy compared to using fossil fuels wouldn't be so much that it can offset anything you're doing, because as much as we are concerned as environmental activists and people who love the environment and want to keep it as it is, uh, we would all want to choose bioenergy over fossil fuels, because fossil fuels do a lot of more harm than good to our environment than bioenergy would. Because as I said earlier, if we even talking about emissions will go out in bioenergy as we're going to burn them. But then as we keep on planting these trees, we keep on doing agriculture, even though they produce some kind of carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases, they're going to still trap these carbon dioxide and greenhouse gases again, making the cycle, or let me say the trade-off in carbon dioxide emissions, let me say plus one minus one equation, and then goes to a zero. So you don't really see that change or great change in use of bioenergy. But if there are any other negatives I do not know about, I think you can bring that up and then we'll discuss that later. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Bright. Stephen, do you have any thoughts regarding the question?
Yeah, if I could add to that, I think that's a really, good framing of bioenergy. I just bring it back to those thoughts about context and this idea of the counterfactual. So, when comparing bioenergy to a fossil fuel economy, I do think that in many circumstances, bioenergy is preferable, actually, basically all of them. But it comes back into our conversation about environmental justice. And of course, there are environmental justice concerns with fossil fuel production and bioenergy production. But I think when thinking about the trade-off, you want to be considering, well, what am I comparing it to? Are the options for, let's say, a given managed forest stand um, to turn this into dimensional lumber for construction of homes, or to turn it into wood pellets? Then you kind of have different trade-offs based on what the scenario you're comparing to is. Similarly, bioenergy is one potential renewable energy resource, but for a given region, you might say, okay, like we could do bioenergy here, but we might also have success doing wind or solar power. And so then what are the trade-offs in that scenario? So I would just bring it back to kind of the point that I keep trying to convey, but the context really matters in any of the scenarios. But that's a really excellent question.
Exactly, Stephen. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have one more question, please go ahead before we wrap up the session today. If you have any, please. No? Okay. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. If you have no um, question, you are able to take in, keep in touch with our speakers, Stephen and Bright here. So probably Stephen or Bright, if you don't mind, please share your, like social media or even email through the chat box. So if the participants here would like to keep in contact with you guys, they could like contact you through the email. So I thank you so much, everyone, especially Stephen and Bright here. Like we are having you to talk about the bioenergy, something new in itself, and we faces new insights since your excellent presentation, marvelous presentation, and like Q&A session, and hopefully participants here get the new insight as well, similar to me, and bring back to home with the materials and with the new knowledge as well. So I thank you, everyone. Bright, Stephen, and Karen. And we'd like to send you a certificate afterwards through the email as soon as possible. So wait for it, and our committee would like to still communicating with you guys. So good night, good evening, good morning, good afternoon for your all. I thank you and glad having you all here. And see you for tomorrow's session, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you,
Thank
guys. Have a great day and night.
All right. Bye.
you. Bye-bye.